Hello, it's Friday, June 7th, 2019. I'm Steve Houston with Compass Communications, and I'm here again with Joe Terril of Terril & Company, and we're going to talk a little bit about markets and investing. And Joe, the last time we met on May 1st, there's been a lot of things that have happened since then. We've got new tariffs for China, we've got looming tariffs for Mexico, and the Fed at least seems like they're signaling a lowering of interest rates. The markets have seesawed back and forth sometimes by significant margins. What's an investor to make of all this? Let's start with tariffs first.
Steve, as we've said for quite some time, tariffs are bad. Mm-hmm. It's bad policy. It will cause the economy to slow down. As you know, we've been bullish on the economy and somewhat bullish on the investment markets. Our one caveat has always been, unless these tariffs continue. Last time we met, supposedly China and the United States had a deal. Now it's obvious there is no deal, and if anything, the rhetoric between the two countries is getting worse. Now we have what I call President Smoot, tongue-in-cheek, meaning, you know, evidently he doesn't know the history of Smoot-Hawley and their tariffs and what that did in the 1930s to our economy. Mm-hmm. But President Trump now appears to say he's going to try and use economic tariffs to create social policy. Mm-hmm. Terrible precedent, terrible news for the world economy. Congress is acting like we're not going to let him do it. Even the Republicans are saying, no, we won't let him impose tariffs on Mexico. But in general, we're turning now much more cautious about the world economy because this issue of tariffs between China and the United States and potential new tariffs, some of the other countries around the world are beginning to say, well, maybe if that's what you're going to do, we should use tariffs. That's bad for the world economy, so it's going to be a wait and see a little bit. But in general, the world economy is going to get worse, not better.
Well, yeah, so let's look at interest rates. The Fed has said they're taking a look at it. They may consider lowering interest rates to ease any pressure on the economy. What do you think of that?
That won't help if our economy begins to falter over tariffs and people around the world afraid to make economic decisions because they're not sure how tariffs ultimately is going to affect the economy, etc. Lower interest rates are not going to offset the effects of tariffs. If tariffs are the problem, then deal with tariffs. To say, well, tariffs are the problem and somehow lowering interest rates will make that problem go away. No, not at all. Stop and think of it in a common sense approach that right now our Fed funds is 2.5%. Mm-hmm. And if that's discouraging people from borrowing money for new plant investment, equipment, expanding, 1.5% isn't going to revive them. You're not going to see people go, oh, thank goodness interest rates are only 1.5%. Now I'm going to run out and borrow a lot of money to expand plant capacity, buy equipment, hire people. No, that's not the case. They're not going to do it if they're afraid of tariffs. It doesn't make any difference how low the interest rates. If they're afraid tariffs are going to take their business, they're not going to do anything no matter what the interest rates are. So the Fed lowering interest rates and people in the investment community thinking, boy, if the Fed lowers interest rates, that's the answer to our problems, they're dead wrong.
And there's some other head scratchers out there. You and I were talking about that 25% of the bonds in the global market have negative interest rates. What is going on there?
Steve, there is this perception that particularly in Europe where interest rates are negative, Japan where interest rates are negative, there's the perception by central bankers that if we lower rates, buy up bonds, if we do print more money, do everything we can to get rates to be negative, therefore people will go spend their money, and spending money in the economy will be great because they don't want to save it and actually lose money because they're a saver. But the ultimate effect has been the exact opposite, and it'll continue to be the exact opposite. People in Japan, Europe, and elsewhere get afraid when they see the interest rates are negative. They get scared. What does that mean for our economy? And they don't spend, and they don't want to spend because they're worried that this is some type of economic signal to them. Is my economy really that bad that people will pay me to borrow money? If they're going to pay me to borrow money, the economy's that bad, I think I'm going to tighten up my spending, and I'm not going to go buy new cars, go buy new houses, go take trips, etc. It's having the exact opposite effect. Now, if I can, this is one of those things, in my opinion, which is making us now much more cautious about investment markets. This is one of the things that I think we will be looking back on in the next couple of years and saying, boy, remember when interest rates were negative? And it'll seem at that time as crazy to us as what it really is. When interest rates were 20%, people thought, well, they'd never go down. I can remember person after person and pundits all over the financial news saying we'll never see single-digit interest rates again. When oil was over $100 a barrel, can remember that. When oil plunged back in the 80s to $10 a barrel, literally oil tankers that haul oil back and forth across the ocean were being given away for free simply because people couldn't afford to pay the insurance and storage and docking of those ships because there was no demand for them. So I can remember when Chrysler had problems, they were giving away Chrysler dealerships. You could go have all you wanted. When you see strange things like that happening, it's a warning sign. And now, in this environment we're in right now, when you see 25% of the world where people are saying, Steve, borrow money from me and I'll pay you. Something's wrong there, and it will change, and it's going to change. And we'll look back on it just as we have in some of those other things and chuckle and go, I can't believe I saw a time frame when you could have brand new ocean-going vessels for free if you'd just take them and pay the docking fees on them, or you could have all the Chrysler dealerships you wanted for free, or you could buy all the stock in 08, 09 you wanted in some of the banks for almost free. This is not a positive sign for investment markets. We're becoming much more cautious.
Okay, thanks, Joe. That's Joe Terril, founder of Terril & Company, independent wealth management with $700 million in discretionary assets under management. Joe, let's meet again in another month. I'm trying to think if it could possibly be as busy and as confusing as the past month has been, but you never know. We'll see you in about a month.
Thanks, Steve.
All right.